Hey guys, today we're going to do the unboxing and overview of the Asus ROG Ally. So this is the new Windows gaming handheld released by Asus, and quite excited for this one because it's meant to compete with the Steam Deck and actually be better than the Steam Deck, right? And that's what all the marketing reviews are saying, basically all the newer reviews, right? Because apparently there's a firmware update you need to install. It should be more performant than the Steam Deck and at a smaller size, I believe, as well. The price is about $100 more expensive than the Steam Deck, I believe. So Steam Deck, obviously, when it comes to the cost, Steam Deck still has the advantage there. The most expensive Steam Deck is still only $600, which is quite good. So this is the more expensive configuration with a 512GB SSD coming in at $700 US. So it's not cheap, but it's actually not too expensive considering how powerful it is, or how powerful it's supposed to be, but we shall test it and find out if it's actually going to match up to the hype. All right, so if you guys want to see the specs here, we actually can see the specs on the back right here. So yeah, this is the more expensive $700 configuration. It's got a 7-inch full HD. I guess this is an IPS panel. Unfortunately, I don't think this is OLED, so I don't know why, but it seems like the only gaming handheld that's OLED is this, well, you know, other than the Switch, is the Neo handhelds. So I don't know why GPD and Valve and Asus did not make an OLED panel. So they stuck with LCD, which is a little bit unfortunate. I would have preferred an OLED panel. But yeah, Full HD 7-inch, that's actually an upgrade over the Steam Deck, which is only 720. And CPU is an AMD Z1 Extreme. This is a custom CPU by AMD. Steam Deck also has a custom AMD CPU, but this one should be more performant. It's got 512GB SSD. That's exact same as my Steam Deck. I will be upgrading the SSD, of course, because 512GB is nothing when it comes to all these modern games. Like, basically around 7-8 games, you know, one of those bigger games are going to take up pretty much all of the storage, so I have to basically upgrade it with the micro SD. Then it's got 16 gigs of RAM, Wi-Fi 6, that's what you would expect, and Windows 11, of course. It is a Windows machine, not as, it doesn't run SteamOS or anything. Some people are disappointed about that because, you know, SteamOS and Linux, it's actually pretty well optimized, but I find that there's you know, there's pros and cons of it, right? But being on Windows also means you get access to other launchers like Epic and EA and Battle.net and stuff like that as well, right? And plus all the other features of Windows. So there's pros and cons of it. Might not be as optimized as SteamOS, but oh well. And yeah, I'll compare this to my GPD Win 4 as well, which I think is a pretty performant handheld, and that also runs Windows 11. Okay, let's see what's inside here. And okay, this, under the logo thing, it says, actually I think this is a kind of stand. They put this right underneath the lid. That's interesting. I think this is actually a stand for the ROG Ally. That's actually just kind of like a cardboard thing, but you can use it to hold up the ROG Ally. And by the way, since it's a USB-C device, you can connect any kind of your Steam Deck dock, whatever that you're using for your Steam Deck, can also work with the ROG Ally. I don't see why not, right? If you have a USB-C dock or something that you're using for your Steam Deck or GPD Win 3 or 4, I don't see why you can't connect it to your ROG Ally. Should be using the same things. So yeah, this is a little, you know, small stand here. Pretty cheap, but oh well, it's free. This is the device, but let's take a look at what's inside. Other things inside the box here first. So, okay. This one. Okay, so here got the Asus ROG. By the way, guys, Asus is probably the most experienced gaming hardware maker that's entered the PC handheld gaming market so far, right? Because you have you know, all these Chinese companies like Neo and GPD and One Netbook, but they're all they're Chinese companies that are kind of dedicated on making those kind of specific devices, but they don't really have any previous history of making those kind of things, or just, you know, any kind of other gaming hardware. And then Valve, besides the Steam controller, I think they haven't made much besides the Steam Deck. So it's really, they've only made the Steam Deck and Steam controller, I believe, is their only hardware that they ever made. But Asus has had, you know, decades of experience making gaming machines. So especially gaming laptops, right? But they also make monitors and keyboards and mice and like a whole bunch of other stuff. So really, they should have the most experience. And I'm really excited that Asus entered the market. Now I was actually expecting Alienware too, because Alienware had that UFO concept a few years back, but unfortunately they did not do anything with that. And I actually was expecting Razer to as well, because Razer actually made the Edge Pro all the way 10 years ago. So Razer actually had a PC gaming handheld like 10 years ago with the Razer Edge. But now they just decide to, I think after a few years, they just kind of went out of that market and decided not to focus on it, instead focus on the Razer Blade instead. Now they released like a Razer Edge that's a different device. It's like a cloud gaming device. It's not really like a PC gaming handheld. So I was expecting Alienware and Razer to kind of enter this space, but they did not. And Asus basically picked up where they dropped the ball. And really, I'm kind of excited. I needed like a bigger name to enter the Windows gaming handheld to compete with the Nintendo Switch, right? You can't just have Valve and GPD in there. So I'm glad that Asus actually entered. This is the warranty card right here. Yeah, I wonder if Razer and Alienware will ever enter the market. In Razer's case, they were one of the first to actually be in the market in the first place. They just didn't stick with it, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, that's all your usual documentation stuff. And then here is your charger. This is actually pretty similar to a charger you would get on Asus gaming laptops, like the Asus Zephyrus, I believe. Some of the thinner, lighter gaming laptops, pretty much similar charger. And that's it, pretty much. Okay, that's all you get. So no cleaning cloth. I don't think there's a screen protector or anything. So pretty bare bones in terms of what you get inside the box. They do give us an interesting cheap stand though. Well, it's better than nothing, I guess. Alright, so let's look at the handheld itself. So this is the Asus ROG Ally. Okay. Yeah, they don't give us a screen protector, unfortunately. But anyways, it's a large 7-inch screen. Again, I wish this was an OLED display, but it's not. It's an IPS. But at least it's full HD, which is higher resolution than the Steam Deck. Let's give you guys my first impressions with these controllers here. I'm gonna have to say it's fairly light, so that's already definitely an advantage of the Ally. So the Steam Deck is really bulky, and this is definitely lighter than that. But yeah, you have your D-pad here, which is fine. I'm not gonna say it's a great D-pad, but it's fine, totally fine. These speakers, I'm interested to see how good they are. We'll test those out later. Analog sticks feel great, actually, pretty solid. Then you got sort of like, I don't know what this is exactly, switching between different windows, I guess, in Windows. And this is some kind of context menu button. I think these are just shortcut buttons, like something you would find on the gaming laptops, right, in the top row. Kind of like shortcuts. I'm not sure what this one does at all. It looks like it launches some kind of Asus software. This one too, maybe. I know the Asus had the Armory software because I'm actually familiar with their gaming laptops. I have Asus ROG gaming laptop, right? The Asus ROG Strix G15, and before I had their other Asus ROG laptops before, so this probably launches some specific ROG software. Yeah, so Armory Crate, I believe, is what they're called. Yeah, and then the face buttons here, it's fine. But again, like if I had a dedicated controller, like a, you know, if you buy like a Razer controller or something like that, or a Hori controller, you know, it's not going to be as solid as those controllers. But it's okay. I mean, for something that's built into a gaming handheld like this is fine. So it's not any worse than anything I've tried on the GPD or deck. The shoulder buttons are interesting because they have the textured grip right here. So that's a nice touch. Yeah, textured grip on both the left and right shoulder buttons and the left and right triggers here, which is nice. So they're not bad feeling at all. And they're pretty big actually, so it's easy to hit and easy to hold with your fingers. So that's pretty nice. Good amount of travel too. Then you have a microphone jack. Is that a mic? Oh, it's a headphone and a microphone jack. So it's a combined jack. interesting. Usually you just get a headphone jack, but this is a microphone combined with a headphone jack. Of course, you get a micro SD card slot here. I'm going to need that to upgrade the space. This looks like it's some kind of expansion port, which Asus might use to create like a docking station thing, because this does have USB-C, but I also notice it has this here, which I'm guessing is some kind of docking connector port for it. So they might be making some docking accessory for this, I'm guessing. Then you get volume up and down. You actually get status indicator lights here, which is nice. I usually don't see that on gaming handhelds. And then power button right here. I think this looks like it could be a fingerprint sensor as well, actually. I wonder if it is. It looks like it's designed in a way where it could be a fingerprint sensor. It's nice. Some vents at the back. Then you have 2 other buttons on the back here, M1 and M2. Now I noticed that it's a little bit awkward to hit this. Like if I'm just putting my fingers like here, then what am I hitting this with? If I'm hitting this with my middle finger, then I have to kind of like hold it in a very tight position like this. If I hit it with my ring finger, I don't know, it's just still kind of awkward. Ring finger doesn't usually have enough strength as my middle finger, but I guess it works, so I can hit it with both. I guess hitting it with both is fine, but still a little bit weird. Yeah, it just feels a little bit unnatural to hit this, actually. I don't know. I guess the Steam Deck has 2 buttons actually on the back, but yeah, I've never actually been a fan of this kind of configuration. I just feel like it's always awkward when it's like kind of sticking out like this. Like, okay, I just want to play my games, and usually I don't really play that many games that utilize something like this, because this is like a custom button anyways. And if you have L3 and R3, you can just press down on the analog stick, so you still have that, right? So this really is something that's extra. You want to use like extra on the game, custom map it to something. But if I don't want to custom map it, it's still like, it's kind of just bothersome to have it there, right? I might be accidentally hitting it and stuff. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little bit awkward for me. But some people might really like it because it's an extra button they can use. Of course, you have the Asus ROG aesthetic here. You have the Asus ROG logo. So yeah, and then at the bottom there's nothing. So that's really about it. You do have these textured grips, which makes it nice and easy to hold. So it is comfortable to hold, except for the buttons on the back, which, you know, if you're not using it, it does feel a little bit awkward because you're always pressing against it. Your hand or your fingers are actually like, you know, you're always landing on that extra button on the back. One thing I wonder, right, and this is ROG here as well here, which is interesting. I don't think I've seen that on their laptops. One thing I do have to note is that for some reason, now Asus, maybe someone from Asus can let me know why, or someone who knows somebody from Asus, why doesn't Asus put OLED screens on any of their ROG laptops? I don't really understand why. Because they have OLED displays. They put them on their ZenBook line. So if you look up the VivoBook and ZenBook line for their creative professionals, they have OLED displays. So why not put it on their gaming machines? I don't understand. I mean, we do have OLED laptops for gaming machines. Like Razer, I know, has some. Alienware used to, but not anymore for some reason. So yeah, like Gigabyte does as well. So there are definitely gaming laptops with OLED displays on them, and Asus themselves make laptops with OLED displays, like the ZenBooks and the VivoBooks. They just don't put it on any of their gaming laptops. Like none of their ROG laptops, I believe, have OLED on them, which is a little bit weird. So yeah, I don't know why. I mean, we do have OLED displays on gaming laptops, right? Other manufacturers make them, but yeah, it's weird that Asus doesn't, especially when they have it on their other laptops. All right, so I do have a comparison here because I have the Steam Deck, so you guys can see the size of the Steam Deck versus the size of the ROG Ally, and you can see that the ROG Ally is a little bit smaller. Not like significantly smaller, but it is smaller, right? The deck is just really bulky. The deck is actually pretty nice to hold as well. It also has these really awkward triggers on the back, but it's not as intrusive, I would say, as the back buttons here on the Ally. See? So yeah, if you don't use these buttons on the back, then it's going to be a little bit awkward because your fingers are always resting on it and it's sticking out like this, whereas on the deck here, it's kind of just out of the way, which is, I think, better. In terms of which is lighter, I think it's not that far off. I mean, they're actually, little bit similar actually in terms of the weight. It's just that the Ally is a little bit smaller. That's it. And the display is pretty much the same size. It's just that yeah, the Ally has a higher resolution. The Ally has 1080p, and the deck has 720p. So definitely Ally has an advantage there with the resolution. Power-wise, the Ally should have an advantage too. I mean, it's newer, so it should have upgraded chipset and GPU. In terms of the buttons and controls, I think Valve actually did a really nice job with their controls, especially considering this is their first, real iteration of this kind of hardware. They don't have any experience making like gaming machines before, so that's pretty impressive. Asus, on the other hand, has had experience making gaming devices, although not really handhelds, right? They've mostly focused on laptops. I don't know, I would actually say the face buttons on the Steam Deck feel nicer. The D-pad actually has, the D-pad on the Ally is not bad. I think that the D-pad is kind of like a wash. They're both pretty good. Face buttons actually, these face buttons feel a little bit, I don't know, doesn't feel quite as satisfying as the ones on the deck. I actually maybe might like the deck ones better, but these ones are a bit bigger, so they're easier to hit. And then the Ally does have these extra Windows controls. Of course, the deck runs SteamOS, but then the deck has these this, I don't know what to call this, but it's sort of trying to emulate the mouse. So it's kind of like a trackpad thing. So the deck has that, which tries to emulate a mouse. Ally does not have that. That's something that the Valve took from their Steam controllers. So yeah, I haven't seen any other handheld have that actually. So I guess that's an advantage in terms of the decks. The deck actually has more buttons, right? So in addition to all the buttons that the Ally has, it has these extra trackpads and also has extra buttons on the back. It has four buttons on the back, whereas the Ally only has 2. So actually the deck has more controls. Yeah, other than that, I'm gonna have to compare them to see which one actually performs better. But you guys get the idea here. They're fairly similar in terms of size. I think the controllers, like in terms of the controllers on the device, I think the Steam Deck actually does still have more, and still might prefer the Steam Deck for that. But it is a more bulky device, I think, for sure. Same thickness, but just the deck is a little bit lengthier. Yeah, so you guys can see about the same thickness, about the same weight, just that the deck is a little bit bulkier. Yeah, and then the display, well, of course, the Ally has higher resolution. All right, and then compared to the GPD Win 4, you can see how much more compact the GPD Win 4 is, which, by the way, did come with a screen protector. But then the trade-off is on the Win 4, the controls are definitely, you have less space for them. But they're not bad. The D-pad, yeah, I think the Steam Deck and the Ally have a better D-pad, but analog stick isn't too bad on the Win 4. The triggers definitely are easier to hit, more comfortable on the Ally. And yeah, definitely the face buttons are, yeah, they're not as good on the Win 4 as on the Ally. The Ally, although it looks a little bit mushy, but at least, pretty easy to hit and feels comfortable enough. But the Win 4 almost feels too stiff, and it's a little bit too small. But that's kind of disadvantage of having something so much more compact, right? The deck, I think, has the best controllers out of all of them. And yeah, that's, you can see like the Win 4, although it's the same thickness, but yeah, the Win 4 is just way more compact. And it has the same resolution display, although it's smaller, right? It's a 6-inch 1080p display. The Ally has a 7-inch. See, the Switch OLED has a 7-inch display, just like the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck, but it's an OLED display. So actually, the display on the Switch OLED is the best out of all these. And again, I'm not sure why none of these guys made OLED displays here. Yeah, but other than that, GPD Win 4, of course, also has the keyboard, which is a nice addition as well. And this is something that if you're going to be around in Windows, you're going to need to type some stuff, right? Because Windows, if you want, in order to navigate, you might need to type some stuff in. So that's where having this built-in keyboard is a nice advantage. So Deck and Ally doesn't have it, but it's not so bad that the deck doesn't have that because it's running SteamOS. The fact is, the Ally runs Windows, so it would be nice for it to have some kind of better navigation, but it doesn't. So yeah, I would say that's a huge advantage for the GPD, because yeah, if you're going to be in Windows, then having a keyboard is definitely a huge advantage, right? Because there are going to be a lot of moments where you need to have a keyboard to type in something in Windows. And yeah, Ally, you just have a touchscreen pretty much. I had to mention that GPD Win 4 also has this little optical track point as well. So there's actually 4 navigation options with the Win 4, right? So that's pretty impressive actually. And you can switch between having the mouse and keyboard mode and the game controller mode on the Win 4 as well. So the Win 4 is actually very impressive, although it's more expensive than both of these. It's actually about $900 to $1,000, so that's more expensive than the ROG Ally or the Steam Deck. So it's in a different price range, although it deserves its own kind of category as well, because it's significantly more compact, just as powerful as the Steam Deck, as I did in my video review of the GPD Win 4. So it's actually impressively powerful. But yeah, I think it's in a different category, right? This is a more expensive device, but it's also more compact, but also has more interesting features, right? Like the built-in keyboard and stuff. And yeah, I think it's in a different category. I think it's worth to check out the GPD Win 4 as well, because it's actually impressively powerful for its size. But the Ally is probably more directly competing with the deck in terms of its features and functionality. Same thing, Switch OLED is the cheapest out of all of them, but it's in a different category because it runs Switch games, so it doesn't compete with PC gaming like these ones do. So anyways, that's the competition, I guess. The Steam Deck is the direct competitor. The Win 4 really kind of has its own niche, right? It's for people who want to have that built-in keyboard, want to have something more compact looking. So it's in its own category, I think. There might be some, people who are like cross-buying, but I think these two are really this is the main rival for the Ally here. And the Switch OLED is just in its own category as well, because it runs its own games. So let's do the comparison. I'm gonna check out the Ally and put some games on it, and then we'll see how it performs. I'm gonna compare it to the Steam Deck and to the GPD Win 4 in terms of performance, because that's what we have in terms of comparable performance for Windows gaming handhelds. I don't have the AN Neo 2S, so I can't compare it to that. But I'm sure someone out there, right, might have it and do comparison online. But for me, I just have these 3, which are, I guess, comparable in terms of performance. Should be comparable in terms of performance. So we'll check it out and see who wins out of all these. All right, so this is the Asus ROG Ally running. I really like the display. It's a really nice, crisp 1080p display. And the fingerprint sensor works well, just like that. So yeah, you can see that there's some glowing LEDs around the analog sticks. Kind of reminds me of the AN Neos. AN Neo does the same thing pretty much. And yeah, has some games installed in here. And we can check out some of the same games I played on my Steam Deck and on the GPD Win 4, so you can do a pretty nice comparison between these two. So just checking out the controls here. This one on the left side here, I don't know what to call this button, but once you press this, it launches the ROG Command Center, where you can change the performance. So right now, you can change it from turbo, which is 25 watts, to 10 watts silent mode, to 15 watts performance mode. So yeah, let's try it on the highest just to see what this baby can do. So you can put on 25 watts turbo mode here. There's auto control mode. I don't know what control mode means, but maybe it's the way that you control the navigation. I guess set to auto right now. Game profiles, you can set this per game. Configure this per game, which is nice. Keyboard, you can set how the on-screen keyboard is displayed, I guess. So that's Army Crate right there. I think this is part of Army Crate. You can turn off real-time monitoring, so I can see my FPS, my temperature, my battery life, which is nice to see that. So you can see your CPU, GPU, FPS, temperature, battery life all up here in an overlay. FPS limiter to 60 right now. Show desktop, embedded controller, and AMD RSR is turned on. So this is kind of like just some quick adjustment settings that you can also do with the Armory app, which is what this right button does. Press this, Armory app opens, and then this is basically what you would find in ROG gaming laptops, right? So you can just go here and you pretty much have the same stuff that you can access via the quick. I guess this left button here is a quick launcher for these type of configuration stuff, so you can actually configure what it launches, and then you have more control here, operating mode, yeah, so you can do more stuff here, eco assist, system stats, game visual here is, yeah, so if you're familiar with ROG like Armory Crate, this is pretty much the same stuff you get on any ROG gaming laptop has access to this stuff. Default racing scenery, RTS vivid, I care cinema FPS. Okay, you can just adjust that. Lighting you can adjust to. Right now I have it set to rainbow, but this is pretty much what you get on the ROG gaming laptops with LEDs and stuff, right? So get aura sync, static breathing. Yeah, okay, just have it set to that for now. Connection, I think this is just Wi-Fi. Audio. There's different modes for the speakers. I wonder what this is. AI noise canceling speaker, interesting. And a microphone you can change to card noise, stereo, omnidirectional. I wonder how great this microphone works. You know, if you're playing online games with your friends, I wonder how well that works. But I'm not going to test that right now. Aura sync is basically your lighting thing again. Starry Night, it's interesting. You can also sync it to music. Huh, that's cool. So whenever something's playing, I guess you can have it sync to that. Okay, anyways, let's have it set to rainbow. Alright, so yeah, that's basically the Asus ROG Armory mode right here. So another thing I want to correct myself on, this is something I looked a little bit more into, and my coworker told me this as well actually. This docking station port is actually for the Asus ROG XG Mobile external GPU. So yeah, Asus makes an external GPU, and this is a proprietary connector for it. Apparently this external GPU can support up to an RTX 4090 laptop GPU, which is really impressive. Actually reminds me of when Alienware had their proprietary graphics amplifier port. For those of you who remember that, they used to have an external port just for their own graphics, their own external GPU basically. So yeah, this is something that Asus is doing. They put it on here, I guess, so if you can actually use this as a complete desktop replacement if you use this port, connect an external GPU to it, and then yeah, you can just dock this in and then run it at home, and it'll almost be like a desktop replacement almost, which is really, really cool. So it's nice having this extra feature. It's proprietary, sure, but at least it's an option, right? It's better than a lot of the other gaming handhelds that don't really even have this option. So it's cool that Asus added this in. Alright, so this is God of War running on the ROG Ally, and I have it set to high settings right now, and it's on 1080p. And you know, I'm going to set the volume to full so you guys can hear the speakers, which are actually pretty nice. These speakers are, yeah, I think this and the Steam Deck have both pretty good speakers for a handheld gaming system, and Nintendo Switch OLED actually has good speakers as well. But I would say the ROG Ally has pretty impressive speakers. So I think, yeah, so far the Deck, the Switch OLED, and the Ally have the best speakers I've heard. And the GPD Win 4 does come close as well, but it's not quite up there because of its smaller size. But still, not too bad. Yeah, the speakers, they're pretty good actually for a handheld gaming system. So running at about 30 FPS right now.
Father, look.
And I have it set to turbo mode, by the way, guys. So it's on turbo mode, which means 25 watts. That's the highest mode I can do here.
Relax. Do not think of it as an animal.
That deep voice here.
A target. Clear your mind.
Pretty good.
Steady your aim and breathe in.
Yeah, the speakers are pretty good actually. I actually really like that. Okay. So hold. Yeah. Oh yeah, shoot. Okay, there we go. Shoot an arrow.
I got it.
Good. And the display is good quality, right, as you would expect from Asus.
It's still alive.
So yeah, this is the highest operating mode for this device. So I'm a little bit disappointed. It's getting about around 30 FPS. So I guess I'm expecting something a bit more. Because the ROG Ally said it was like, you know, way more powerful than the Steam Deck, but it doesn't seem like it's that much more powerful than the Steam Deck. I mean, I think it is more powerful, but not that much more from what it's looking like here.
I can't.
Again, these speakers are probably the best I've heard on a Windows gaming handheld so far. I think it might even beat out the deck by a little bit. And the deck has really good speakers too, but I think this might even beat out the deck by a little bit. Yeah, this is pretty good. So this is a cutscene, so it's higher FPS right now. I want to see like when it gets into more action and just regular gameplay. So far I think I'm getting around, this is right now 28, right? So yeah, right now I think it's averaging probably around 30. And I'm a little bit disappointed by that. I mean, sure, it's full HD and everything, and it's, you know, a portable gaming handheld, but this is on the full 25 watts turbo mode. I think I should be getting more than that, I would think.
We're gonna fight that?
We have no choice.
Okay, so we have an action sequence here in the battle. Okay. So yeah, still about 28 to 30 FPS right now, and 1080p high settings. Yeah, I wonder if I can improve it. So, oh yeah, so this is basically the start button here. Yeah, let's see. Go to options here. See if we can drop it. If we drop it down. Oh, I can't right now. Okay, if we do windowed. Oh, okay, well, we gotta do windowed, I guess, if we want to do 720. Okay, but I'm just curious how much this improves the performance by. So yeah, by the way, guys, this is the start button, which is on the upper right button right here, and this, I guess, is the select button. I guess that makes sense. Okay, so getting about 30, it says 32, okay, 36, 34, okay, so roughly about 35, I would say 35 FPS, which is really the same as the deck, I would say. Not much different than the deck, honestly. Interesting. I was expecting this to be better than the deck, but it's not. It's really about the same performance as the deck right now. Okay. Yeah, okay. A little bit disappointing, yeah. I'm getting about 35 FPS on 720 and about 30 FPS on 1080. So, overall, not that much better than the deck. Pretty similar to the deck, honestly, and lower than the Win 4, actually. The Win 4 is getting about 40 FPS on 720. So, that is interesting. The Win 4 is actually getting better performance than this. So, it's on high settings. So yeah, that's kind of disappointing here. So you guys can see the performances on the other handhelds. Steam Deck, it gets pretty similar performance, and you get about 30, 35 FPS on 720p on high settings, I believe. And then on the GPD Win 4, you can see it gets better performance than on the deck or Ally. So you get about 40 FPS on the same setting, 720p on high. Okay, so this is Stray. Graphics settings are set to high on 720, and let's see, the FPS is, it's around 40, I would say. I mean, it will slow down at certain parts, but I'd say probably on average about 40 here, which is really the same as my Win 4 and my deck, actually. Again, I think the speakers here are probably the best out of any Windows gaming handheld I've tried, but performance is pretty similar to my Deck, and honestly maybe a little bit below my Win 4, which is kind of disappointing. Yeah, so I'm getting about 40 FPS. This is pretty much in line with the deck and the Win 4, I guess, when it came to Stray. So, yeah, guys. I mean, it still looks really good. It plays nicely. I was just expecting better performance from this. Yeah. So yeah, on the Steam Deck, also getting about 40 FPS. And on the Win 4, also getting about the same. And this is all on the same settings. So, yeah, the Ally is pretty much in line with that. Alright, this is Mafia Definitive Edition. It's a game I played on the Win 3 and Win 4 in my review videos for those. So I just kind of want to test it out on here too. So I have the graphics settings the same as those ones. So it's set to high on 720p. And right now running about 45 FPS, which is really the same as the Win 4. So it's not any different than the Win 4 here. I do have to add though, guys, that I didn't know this, but right now turbo mode operates at 30 watts, and that's because I plugged in the AC adapter, which is the USB-C charger. So if I don't plug it in, if I just leave it on battery mode, it's going to revert to 25 watts here. So actually you get higher performance when you plug in the charger. So you plug in the charger, now turbo can operate at 30 watts instead of 25 watts. So if I just play it on battery, let's see the FPS here. The performance is going to drop a bit actually if I operate on battery. But that's, you know, the purpose of this is for portability, right? So I'm guessing most people will play this on battery. But of course, if you want higher performance, then you can actually plug it in and you get a little bit higher wattage. You get 30 watts on the turbo. So it's interesting. But yeah, I would say this is pretty much performing just like my Win 4. So it's getting about 45 FPS on the same settings. Which is to say it's good. It's a good performing device. It just isn't better than the Win 4, which is a little bit surprising because I thought with a device like this, which is bigger, supposedly more powerful than the Steam Deck, I thought it would be more powerful than the Win 4, but I guess it isn't. It's really performing about the same. So yeah, this is Mafia Definitive Edition. Again, on my Win 4, I was also getting about 45 FPS. With the same settings, which is really impressive for a device that's actually substantially smaller than the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. So
what happens when I don't drop?
I did not try this game with the Steam Deck, but I think it would be getting roughly similar or slightly less performant numbers, I'm guessing. But I would guess around 40-45 if I played this on the Steam Deck. Alright, this is Far Cry New Dawn. It's running on 1080p right now on high settings, and it's getting about 35 FPS. Of course I'm plugged in, so that adds a little bit of power, but it's playing pretty well so far. Let's unplug the power, see if that has any noticeable hit. Okay, FPS now drops down to about 30, I would say. Yeah, so definitely plugged in is better power. Okay, yeah, still getting about 30-35. So it's definitely playable. Not like really performant or anything, but it's definitely playable on 1080 on high settings. Oh great, I just set myself on fire. Smart. Yeah, this is Far Cry New Dawn. Yeah, nice open world game. Very good looking. All the Far Cry games have been pretty good looking. So this of course using Dunia Engine 2 and the Far Cry 5 engine. So pretty good. But yeah, about still actually about, even on battery mode, I'm getting about 35 FPS on average, I would say. Sometimes above, you know, or sometimes below, but on average about 35. And looks really nice actually. So yeah, Far Cry New Dawn, getting about 35 FPS here, high settings, 1080. I don't have anything to compare it to because I actually didn't run this game on the other handhelds in the video, so nothing to compare it to yet, but seems to be running pretty well on the Ally here. Alright, so this is Spider-Man Remastered, running on the Ally here, and it's on high settings at 1080p. Looks beautiful on this display. We're getting around 30-ish FPS. 30, oh, okay, I'm getting a little bit higher now. 30, 35 maybe? Nice. This is a really good looking game, and really kind of shows off the beauty of the Ally's screen, which is a really nice screen.
Hello? Parker, where are you? We must run through the demonstration at least once before the grant committee arrives.
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Just gonna go to the top of the Empire State Building
I'll
here.
be in soon. Promise. Better wrap this up quick than get to my real job.
Sorry, Dr. Connors. Testing right now. Okay. So yeah, I would say averaging around 35 actually. Pretty good. I mean, it's at 40 right now, but it fluctuates, right? So, in this game actually in particular, it fluctuates a lot. So now it went down to like 30 again. So I would say probably around, around 30 FPS on average. Or 35, I mean. Yeah, around 35 FPS. So it's definitely playable, but not like super performant again. So yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't tried this on the Win 4 or the deck, but I'm expecting them to get similar or slightly lower numbers than this. Yeah, really nice looking game on the Ally, and definitely very playable. Alright guys, so final thoughts on the Asus ROG Ally. I think it's a really nice, impressive machine, and definitely a nice competitor to the deck, but a little bit disappointing in the performance actually, compared to the Asus marketing claims. They said that it was like something, twice as powerful as the deck. Obviously, it's not. It's maybe just, in my experience, it's about the same, or just slightly more powerful than the deck, not that much more. So it's, yeah, honestly a little bit disappointing compared to the claims, and I don't think it's more powerful than the Win 4 either. And actually the Win 4 even beat it in some games. So yeah, honestly a little bit disappointing. I feel the same way about the AN Neo Air Pro that I got as well, a little bit disappointing. And I am doing it on turbo mode on every game. I even plugged it in for some games. And yes, I did update the firmware. I think the firmware is the latest. So I don't know what's going on here. So it's definitely not performing like Asus claims. It's definitely still a very capable handheld, right? It's yeah, definitely a competitor to the deck in the Win 4, but I was expecting it to be much more performant, but it's not. It's really similar to them. So yeah, not sure what's going on. I would say the main reason to get the Ally is the price is still pretty good. So here's the Steam Deck. By comparison, like I said, it's slightly smaller, right? It's definitely not as bulky as the Steam Deck is, so it's definitely a slightly smaller device, and just as performant or better than the deck in terms of performance, for not that much more in price. In terms of the controls, yeah, it's about this. I would say they both have nice controllers, so it's a bit of a wash there, but they both have nice controllers. They'll both have nice speakers as well, although the Allies I think I like a little bit better. The display, I would say, is one of the main reasons to go for the Ally. It has a 1080p display. That's pretty gorgeous. The deck also has a nice display, but it's only 720. And yeah, otherwise, I would say everything else. I think the Asus also has an advantage with this external port. If you do want to get that extreme mobile external GPU dock from Asus, there's another option to do that here, and then you can use it as a real desktop replacement with an external GPU. You can't, or rather for Steam Deck you're limited to the USB-C docks, right? I think this proprietary solution may be more performant than a USB-C external GPU thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think overall the $100 extra for the Ally, I think is worth it. Just don't expect to be getting like way better performance in the deck, because you're not. But just for the updated display, I think the increased resolution is probably worth it. And then, of course, another thing is that Steam Deck runs SteamOS, which is some people would rather have SteamOS, and some people would rather have Windows. It's really like it's a pro and a con, right? So it really depends on what operating system you prefer. Some people prefer having SteamOS just because the interface, you know, is more intuitive and everything, and you get all the benefits of Linux. Whereas with the deck, you do have all the pros and cons of running Windows, but you do have access to all the launchers and stuff without having to mod the Steam Deck to do that. So yeah, that's another pro and a con, I guess, is having different operating systems, so that will influence people's decisions as well. And battery life is pretty similar between these two, I think. I think the Ally actually gets less battery life because the display resolution is higher. So the Ally, I think, should be getting a little bit less battery life than the deck because of that increased resolution, but neither of them are going to be battery powerhouses or anything, just because that's the nature of having a PC gaming handheld. So keep in mind, I don't have the AN Neo 2, so I don't have access to that one. I'm sure that one's very performant as well, but I don't have access to it, and I don't have plans to get it, honestly, because the design just isn't really unique enough for me. And I don't have like a ton of money to blow on all these gaming handhelds each time a new one comes out. There's also the GPD Win Max 2, which is coming out, but I'm not going to get that one either. I'm not rich enough to just buy every gaming handheld that comes out. But yeah, I think out of all the PC gaming handhelds I have, the most impressive to me would still be the GPD Win 4. So GPD Win 4, honestly, the performance is just as good as the Ally or even better in some games, but that's impressive given the size of this. Just look at the size of the Win 4 compared to the deck and the Ally. It's just so much more compact. You can literally fit this one in your pocket, whereas these ones definitely, I don't think you can, unless you have really big pockets. But yeah, this one is compact enough to really fit in your pocket. It's also got a nice display, 1080p. Yeah, it's a 6-inch display, so it's a bit smaller, but you know, very high resolution, so high PPI on this one. Now the controls, because of how compact it has to be, isn't quite as good as the controls on the Ally or the deck, especially for the face buttons and the D-pad. I think the face buttons and D-pad I think are definitely better on the deck and the Ally, but they're good enough still for playing games. And yeah, the speakers aren't as good either, but you know, it's pretty decent for what it is. It's definitely a huge upgrade over the Win 3, which had really crappy speakers. So definitely, I think it's impressive for the size. And you have this nice built-in keyboard, which, as I said at the beginning of this video, I think this gives the GPD Win 4 a major advantage, actually, because if you're running Windows, there's going to be times when you need the keyboard. Like, that's just a cold, hard truth, you know. You're gonna need the keyboard for Windows. And having to type in an on-screen keyboard on the Ally every time, or the AN Neo every time, it gets really annoying. So this is a huge advantage the GPD Win has over the AN Neo and the Ally, having a built-in physical tactile keyboard. And especially tactile for the Win 4, right? The Win 3 did not have a tactile keyboard. So this gives the Win 4 a pretty big advantage in my eyes, because if you're running Windows, you're going to need a keyboard. And you actually have 4 different navigation options on the Win 4. So you have the touchscreen, then you have the mouse and keyboard mode, which is just using the analog sticks as the mouse. Then you have the controller mode, which is using the D-pad to select things. And then you have this optical track point nub as well. So you have 4 different navigation options on the Win 4. In addition to the physical keyboard. So really, it's an impressive device. It's a little bit more expensive. This is like $900 to $1,000 US compared to $700 for the Ally and $600 for the deck in their top configurations. So it's a little bit more expensive, but I think it's worth it, because the Win 4 it's a very impressive machine, given the size. So yeah, given how compact it is, the fact that it has a physical keyboard, and the fact that it's just as performant as the Ally. So yeah, I mean, all the games I tested it on, I don't think the Ally was better than the Win 4. So the Win 4 actually keeps up with the Ally, and that's pretty impressive, honestly. Or the Ally is you know, pretty similar. So yeah, I would say out of all the PC gaming handhelds, I would pick the Win 4 as my choice here, because of just how compact it is, the amount of features on it, and the fact that it's pretty performant, especially for the size. So one more thing is, I out of all these PC gaming handhelds, I would pick the GPD Win 4, but if you were just to ask me out of all gaming handhelds in general, and by the way, I don't have my EA Neo Air Pro in this comparison because there's just no point. It's just not as performant as these. It's more in line with the GPD Win 3 rather than the Win 4, the Ally, and the Dex. So I don't even put it in this comparison. So yeah, no EA Neo Air Pro here, even though I have it. Yeah, out of all my gaming handhelds, the one I would actually, like if I were to just choose one to bring on a trip, would be the Nintendo Switch OLED, right? And that's actually surprising, right, to some of you guys, because maybe some of you guys might be like, oh, Tong, you have all these PC gaming handhelds, why don't you pick one of them? Why do you pick the Switch? It's not as powerful. Well, the thing about the Switch is that it just works. Like, any game, because this is a dedicated console, right? Any game just works for the Switch. If you just want to play a game, it just works. There's no fiddling around with drivers, you know, no game crashing. Like I just had one of the games that I played crash on the Ally, so I had to redo that one for the video. Like, yeah, and there's all this stuff you got to set up on these devices, right? All the launchers and stuff. Like, it's just a lot of hassle to get stuff to work on these devices. Because that's the nature of PC, right? Like, PC games just, it has to run on so many different platforms and configurations and stuff. So you need to have like the proper drivers and everything. Like, there's just a lot of hassle to run PC games. If I were to just bring one handheld gaming device on a trip, I usually pick the Switch. So the Switch, the OLED Switch, of course, has a really nice display. It's the only one out of these to have an OLED display. It's large, 7 inches, so pretty good. The controllers are these third-party Hori split pad compact controllers, which honestly have the best controls out of all these, and pretty decent speakers as well. So yeah, overall, if you just ask me which out of all the gaming handhelds I have, which one would I pick, just picking one to bring on a trip, I would say the OLED Switch. Because yeah, it's just pick up and play. Literally every game just works on it, and of course there's some, you know, there's some games exclusive to Switch, like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, for example. You can't play that anywhere else. Yeah, just I would pick the Switch. It's just easy pick up and play. Every game works on it. Don't have to worry about fiddliness, you know, with the drivers and like game crashing and launchers and whatnot. And also the fact that battery life, right? So the Switch gets better battery life than any of these. Partly due to the fact that the games are more optimized and because it's lower power, right? 720p display, and doesn't use up as much power as these guys. So that's it, guys. That might be surprising to some of you guys, but yeah, I have all these expensive PC gaming handhelds, but I would still choose the OLED Switch if you were to ask me one device to take on a trip. So that's it, guys. Let me know what you think of the Asus ROG Ally. Compared to all these gaming handhelds, honestly, yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a disappointment. It's still a really good handheld, just a little bit of a disappointment. And I would say the GPD Win 4 is still my pick for Windows, for PC gaming handhelds, I should say. And just for overall gaming handhelds, I would still pick the OLED Switch. So that's basically my verdict. That's it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. And as always, thanks for watching.